You went to bed at 10, you woke up at 2, you stared at the ceiling for 40 minutes, you finally dozed off, only to wake again at 4:30. And by the time your alarm went off, you felt more exhausted than when you started. If that sounds like a typical night for you, I need you to know something important before you click away. This is not just bad luck. It is not just aging, and it is absolutely not something you have to accept as your new normal. There is a very specific reason why sleep changes so dramatically after 60, and there is a very specific, research-backed set of things you can do starting tonight to change it. Stay right here, because this video could genuinely be the turning point you have been waiting for. Welcome back, and if this is your first time here, I am glad you found this channel. This is Dr. Alex Morgan Aging Wellness Lab, where we focus entirely on real, science-based strategies for living better, moving better, and feeling stronger as you get older. If that is something you want more of in your life, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss a video. We put out new content every single week for people over 60 who are done settling for feeling less than their best. Now let's get into what is really happening with your sleep and exactly what you can do about it. Here is what most people do not realize. Sleep is not one single thing. It is actually a complex cycle made up of different stages that your brain and body are supposed to move through multiple times each night. You have light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, which is when you dream and when your brain does most of its memory consolidation and emotional processing. A healthy sleep cycle in a young adult runs roughly 90 minutes and repeats 4 to 6 times across a full night. Now here is what changes after 60. The architecture of that cycle shifts. You spend less time in deep slow wave sleep, which is the most physically restorative stage. Your brain becomes more sensitive to disturbances. Your body temperature regulation changes. Hormones that used to gently pull you into sleep and hold you there lose some of their potency. And the result is exactly what you have been experiencing. Lighter sleep, more awakenings, earlier morning rising, and that relentless, tired but wired feeling that makes evenings frustrating and mornings even worse. Now, I want to pause here and say something clearly because I think it matters a lot. A lot of older adults have been told by well-meaning doctors or family members that waking up at night and sleeping less is just what happens when you get older. And while it is true that sleep architecture shifts with age, it is absolutely not true that you are locked into poor sleep because of it. The research on this is actually quite clear. Older adults who follow the right evening practices, who structure their sleep environment correctly, and who understand the specific biological levers that influence sleep after 60, sleep significantly better than those who do not. Age shifts the landscape of sleep. It does not doom you to bad sleep. That distinction is important because giving up on good sleep is one of the most damaging decisions an older adult can make. Let me tell you why that is, because I think once you understand what sleep deprivation is actually doing to your body and brain at this stage of life, you will never again treat it as a minor inconvenience. Chronic poor sleep in adults over 60 accelerates cognitive decline. Multiple large studies now show a clear link between fragmented, insufficient sleep and a significantly higher risk of developing dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. During deep sleep, your brain activates a kind of internal cleaning system called the glymphatic system, which flushes out metabolic waste products, including amyloid beta, the protein that clumps into the plaques associated with Alzheimer's. When you consistently miss deep sleep, that cleaning does not happen properly. The waste builds up. Over years, that buildup causes real measurable damage. Poor sleep also drives up systemic inflammation, weakens immune function, disrupts blood sugar regulation, raises blood pressure, and accelerates muscle loss. Every single one of those consequences hits harder after 60 because your physiological reserves are smaller. A 30-year-old can absorb a few bad nights of sleep and largely bounce back. A 65-year-old who strings together months of fragmented sleep is quietly accumulating damage in ways that show up as fatigue, weight gain, mood changes, joint pain, and cognitive fog. It is not dramatic, it does not happen overnight, but it is real and it compounds. So let's talk about solutions. Specifically, let's talk about what I call a structured sleep preparation routine for adults over 60, because this is where the biggest, fastest wins are for most people. And the reason a structured routine works so well at this life stage comes down to one core biological fact. After 60, your body has become less capable of generating strong, spontaneous sleep pressure on its own. You cannot just fall into bed whenever you feel like it and expect a quality night's sleep the way you might have at 40. Your sleep system has become more dependent on environmental cues, behavioral consistency, and intentional wind-down signals to shift into the proper hormonal and neurological state for deep, restorative sleep. In other words, you have to set the stage more deliberately. And when you do, the results can be remarkable. Let's start with light, because this is probably the single most underestimated factor in sleep quality for people over 60. Your brain's sleep-wake cycle is governed primarily by a small region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which responds to light signals coming through your eyes. In response to bright light, it suppresses melatonin production. In response to dim or warm-toned light, it begins releasing melatonin and preparing the brain for sleep. The problem is that after 60, several things change. Your pupils become smaller and less responsive. The lenses of your eyes yellow slightly, which filters out more blue light during the day, meaning your brain gets weaker signals throughout the day that you are in bright daylight. And your melatonin production naturally declines with age. All of this adds up to a clock that is harder to set and harder to keep in rhythm. The practical fix is twofold. First, get as much bright light as possible in the morning, ideally outside within an hour of waking. Even on a cloudy day, outdoor light is significantly brighter than most indoor environments and provides the strong morning signal your brain needs to anchor the rest of your daily rhythm. Second, dramatically reduce your exposure to bright and blue-toned light in the 2 hours before bed. This means dimming the lights in your home in the evening, putting your phone and television in night mode, or turning them off entirely. And if possible, switching your bedroom to warm amber-toned lighting in the final hour before sleep. This is not about being extreme. It is about working with your biology instead of fighting it. The temperature of your bedroom matters more than most people realize as well. Your core body temperature naturally needs to drop by about 1 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate and maintain sleep. For younger adults, this process happens fairly efficiently. For adults over 60, thermoregulation becomes less precise, which is one reason older adults so often complain about waking up too hot or too cold in the night. The research consistently points to a bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit as optimal for sleep in older adults. If that feels too cool during the night, layering with breathable blankets you can kick off is a better strategy than sleeping in a warmer room, because it gives you control over your surface temperature without raising the ambient temperature of the space. A warm bath or shower 45 minutes to an hour before bed is a technique that sounds counterintuitive, but is supported by strong research. When you soak in warm water, your blood vessels dilate and blood rushes to the surface of your skin. When you step out, that heat dissipates rapidly, and your core body temperature drops more quickly than it would otherwise. This temperature drop sends a powerful biological signal that it is time to sleep. Studies have found that older adults who take a warm bath or shower approximately an hour before bed fall asleep faster and spend more time in deep sleep than those who do not. This one habit alone, done consistently, can produce a noticeable improvement in sleep quality within 1 to 2 weeks. Now let's talk about what you are putting into your body in the hours before sleep, because this is an area where a lot of older adults are unknowingly sabotaging themselves. Alcohol is perhaps the biggest culprit. Many people over 60 have a glass of wine or a drink in the evening because it helps them feel relaxed and fall asleep more easily. And it does help you fall asleep. The problem is what happens after. Alcohol disrupts sleep architecture significantly. It suppresses REM sleep in the first half of the night, and then as it metabolizes, it creates a rebound effect in the second half that fragments sleep, raises heart rate, and causes exactly those 2 and 3 a.m. awakenings that so many people over 60 experience. If you are drinking in the evening and waking in the middle of the night, there is a very strong chance those two things are directly connected. Eliminating alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime, or ideally the full evening, is one of the highest impact changes you can make. Caffeine is another one that deserves more respect than most people give it. After 60, your liver's ability to metabolize caffeine slows down considerably. The half-life of caffeine, meaning the time it takes your body to clear half of what you consumed, can extend to 8 or even 10 hours in older adults. That means a 2 o'clock cup of coffee could still have a meaningful stimulant effect at 10 or 11 at night. If you are over 60 and struggling with sleep, I would strongly recommend moving your last caffeine of the day to before noon. Yes, noon. I know that feels restrictive, but for many people, this single change produces a dramatic improvement in sleep depth and duration within just a few days. On the positive side, there are things you can consume in the evening that genuinely support sleep. Tart cherry juice has been studied specifically in older adults with insomnia and found to meaningfully increase melatonin levels and improve sleep efficiency. A small glass, roughly 8 ounces, taken about an hour before bed, has shown real benefits in multiple trials. It is one of the few dietary sleep interventions that is actually held up to scientific scrutiny. Chamomile tea is another option with decent evidence behind it. It contains an antioxidant called apigenin that binds to receptors in the brain that promote relaxation and initiate sleep. Neither of these is a magic bullet, but as part of a consistent evening routine, they contribute to the overall signal you are sending to your brain that it is time to wind down. Let me take a moment to talk about the mind, because this is where so many older adults get stuck in a cycle that feels almost impossible to escape. You lie down. You are tired. But the moment your head hits the pillow, your brain starts running. You start replaying conversations from earlier in the day. You start thinking about your health, your family, your finances, what you need to do tomorrow, what you should have done differently last week. And the harder you try to force yourself to sleep, the more awake you feel. This is not a personal failing. This is a predictable neurological response. Your brain interprets the effort to sleep as a form of stress, which triggers mild arousal responses that work directly against sleep onset. Here at Dr. Alex Morgan Aging Wellness Lab, one thing I return to consistently when discussing this particular problem is the research on cognitive offloading before bed. The idea is simple. Your brain stays activated at night partly because it is holding on to unresolved mental loops, things it has not finished processing, tasks it is afraid you will forget, anxieties it keeps cycling through looking for resolution. When you give those things somewhere to go before you get into bed, your brain can let them go more easily. The most effective way to do this is a simple 10-minute writing practice done in a notebook at least 30 minutes before you get into bed. You write down everything that is on your mind. Not in an organized way, not in a journaling way, just a brain dump. You also write down a short, specific list of what you plan to do tomorrow. Research from Baylor University found that people who write a concrete to-do list before bed fall asleep significantly faster than those who write about what they accomplished during the day. The act of externalizing tomorrow's tasks appears to signal to the brain that it does not need to keep those items active. It can let them go. Progressive muscle relaxation is another technique that deserves a place in your pre-sleep routine, and it is particularly effective for older adults because it addresses a very common contributor to poor sleep at this age, which is physical tension held in the muscles and joints. Many people over 60 carry significant tension in their neck, shoulders, hips, and legs, often without realizing it because it has been there so long it feels normal. This tension keeps the nervous system in a mild state of activation that makes deep sleep harder to achieve. Progressive muscle relaxation works by systematically tensing and releasing muscle groups from your feet all the way up to your face, spending about 5 seconds in each tense phase and then fully releasing. The contrast between tension and release trains your nervous system to recognize and deepen the state of muscular relaxation. Done in bed before sleep, this practice can meaningfully reduce the time it takes to fall asleep and reduce the number of nighttime awakenings. One more thing I want to address because it comes up constantly, and that is the question of napping. Many older adults nap during the day, and I'm often asked whether napping is helping or hurting nighttime sleep. The honest answer is that it depends entirely on how you are napping. Long naps of 90 minutes or more taken in the afternoon significantly reduce what sleep researchers call sleep pressure, which is essentially the biological drive to sleep that builds up the longer you stay awake. When you deplete that pressure with a long afternoon nap, you are borrowing from tonight's sleep budget, and you will likely find it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep later. However, a short nap of 20 to 30 minutes taken before 2 in the afternoon has a very different effect. It reduces fatigue and improves afternoon alertness without meaningfully disrupting nighttime sleep pressure. So if you are a napper, the goal is not necessarily to stop napping entirely. The goal is to time it right and keep it short. There is one more element of sleep health for people over 60 that I would be doing you a disservice to leave out, and that is the role of physical movement during the day. Regular, moderate physical activity is one of the most powerful non-pharmaceutical sleep interventions we have for older adults. Multiple large reviews of the research confirm that older adults who exercise regularly fall asleep faster, sleep longer, spend more time in deep sleep, and wake up less frequently during the night compared to sedentary adults of the same age. You do not need to be running marathons. A 30-minute brisk walk most days of the week, some light resistance training 2 or 3 times a week, gentle stretching in the evenings, these things cumulatively shift your sleep quality in ways that no supplement or sleep aid can replicate because they address the underlying biology rather than just masking the symptoms. What I want you to walk away from today with is a clear picture of your evening. In the last 2 hours before bed, the lights in your home go dim. You put your phone away or switch it to the least stimulating settings possible. You take a warm shower or bath, you sit down for 10 minutes and do your brain dump writing. You make a short list for tomorrow, you have your chamomile tea or your small glass of tart cherry juice. And when you actually get into bed, you do your progressive muscle relaxation from feet to face, slow and deliberate. That entire sequence, done consistently every night, is essentially a biological instruction manual you are handing to your nervous system. You are telling it clearly and consistently this sequence of things means it is time to sleep deeply. And your nervous system, which is more responsive to routine and environmental cues than it was at 30, will learn that pattern. Within 2 to 4 weeks of consistent practice, most people notice a real and meaningful shift. I want to hear from you on this. Drop a comment below and tell me which part of your nighttime routine you struggle with the most. Is it the racing mind? Is it waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep? Is it feeling wide awake at 10 p.m. but exhausted by 4? Your comment helps me create better content for you and for everyone else in this community who is going through the same thing. And if you have a friend or family member over 60 who is struggling with sleep, please share this video with them. It costs you nothing, and it could genuinely help them feel better every single day. That is what this channel is about. This is Dr. Alex Morgan, Aging Wellness Lab. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not something you earn after a productive day. It is the foundation that everything else in your health is built on. Protect it, invest in it, and start tonight. I will see you in the next video.